Lovely.
Hi, this is Julia Davis of Finchley Yoga and the Yoga Teachers Forum. I have invited Amy Fergus Fuller here to talk to us a little bit about her yoga passions and loves and about the session that she'll be running with us on Wednesday of next week. So hi, Amy.
Hi.
It would be lovely to hear a little bit more about you, Amy, and how you came to even practice yoga in the first place. Do let us know.
So I started practicing yoga in 2005 when I was at uni. It was completely accidental. I'd done movement my whole life. I've been doing acting and singing and dancing since I was about 3, I think. And then I started doing a drama course at uni. And it just happened to be part of the course because, of course, you have to do exercise and you have to stay fit. And I think they also wanted us to have a sense of better understanding of ourselves and of our body. That's the kind of the impression I got from the teacher we had anyway. So in 2005, I started doing it, really enjoyed it, as I guess most movers do, because I was, it was quite easy for me. I was like, oh, I'm flexible, I can move, it's fun. And I have to say back then, quite clearly the teacher was not the best. When I look back at it, she didn't really know what she was doing. She didn't really have any proper training. She just liked to do yoga and then got us to do it with her, which was really nice. And it was a great introduction to it for me. So then I kind of carried it on my own when I would be at home at uni, feeling stressed. I bought myself an Ashtanga DVD. I was going to say video. I don't think it was a video. It wasn't that long ago. And I would do that pretty much every day. And then as time went on and I continued practicing myself, I decided I wanted to go into it a little bit more. So in 2010, I went traveling with a friend of mine and we went to India we went to India for a month, and I stayed in an ashram for 2 weeks. A really nice ashram actually in Rishikesh, which is unusual. Most of the time they're not so nice. This one was very nice. And did the whole, wake up at 5 a.m, do yoga, don't talk, eat, chant, do all the things you're supposed to do yoga again in the evening. And I loved it. And they had a teacher training course going on while I was there. I wasn't doing the course, but they occasionally, when we would have our lessons, have the teacher trainees come in to assist and stuff. And I remember sitting there one day doing this lesson, seeing these teachers assisting and thinking, I really want to do that. I want that to be me. So I came back home and I started to look into, the way that you could go about becoming a teacher. And I looked at many different websites and many different teachers and decided the best way would be to go to the yoga show and to speak to all the people and all the places that I'd looked at, and do a couple of workshops. So I did I went and spoke to them all, and then I did a workshop with Elena Voice and Duncan Wong. This is many years ago, and loved both of them. But the course I was looking at was Elena Voice's course, which was the Teach Yoga course. And I went over to the stand and I just got a great vibe and decided right there and then that was it. I was going to do it. And I did. And I think yoga is probably the only thing that I've actually stuck to. I'm very much one of those people, or used to be anyway, one of those people who would flip from one thing to another. And I mean, I worked as a nursery nurse for 7 years before becoming a yoga teacher. And even though I was doing the same job, I went from 1 year being just a nursery nurse to the next year leaving and going traveling, and then the next year becoming an art teacher, then deciding I didn't want to do that anymore, and then going back to being a nursery nurse. And I did this on and off. But yoga was a constant throughout that whole time. And then really only, I suppose, 2 or 3 years ago, I started to decide to teach very like I wanted it to be my main job, basically. And I started working for Elena and doing a lot of assisting for her and work with her. And then I stopped working for her now about a year ago and have just been doing this for a year. So yeah, that's kind of how my journey has got to where it is now.
Great, thank you for that.
It's a pleasure.
You have been very generous to offer your time to the Yoga Teachers Forum.
Thank
And
you.
the area that you've decided to share with the forum is yoga therapy. And yoga therapy can mean very different things to different people. So I'd like to maybe ask a couple of questions. So where do you find therapy in yoga for yourself? And what were you thinking of as far as what you'd like to share with us at the forum?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So for myself, I do view it in kind of the two ways that most people do, which is, I suppose, one mentally and two physically. But for me personally, it has to start from the physical before it can come into the mental. And this is just coming from my own personal experience, because I've been through many things in my life. One of the things was actually when I was at uni, my mum passed away. And I think that's kind of why this has stuck with me for so long, because it was my constant and it was my way of dealing with the stress of that and dealing with what everything else was causing. And I would just move and I would just have fun and it would make me feel better. But it wasn't until I started to look at my body and the way that it moved and my posture that it actually started to make a huge difference mentally. You know, I would still find that I would really need to move to feel better instead of just feeling better because I, you know, move occasionally, if you know what I mean. So I started to look at more, I mean, this was again with the help of Elena, because she comes from a very therapeutic background. We kind of looked at my body as a whole, and I noticed there was kind of closure in my chest, very tight feelings in my hips, even though I was quite hypermobile in my hips, and a very lordotic spine. So it was when I started to then look at those things myself and change those things within my body that all of a sudden it was like a huge, I don't know, weight had been lifted, because not only had I actually opened the physical channels in my body, but I had then been able to open the channels all the way up to the mind to then do what yoga is supposed to do, which is, you know, make it a union type thing, not just with myself, but with everything around me. I mean, I go back to when I worked at the nursery, people used to constantly say to me, how are you so calm? I don't know how you stay so calm, because it's hard work working with 30 kids all day long. And I said to them, I guarantee you it is doing yoga. That is it. So I suppose, yeah, in answer to your question, for me, it's the two combined, but it starts with the physical and then it goes into the mental. And that is kind of what I would want to look at with everyone on the workshop. And I'll let you carry on with the next question before I carry on, because I could just carry on.
Okay, so it's really lovely to hear, because it's a really lovely thing to know that you kind of, it's like through unlocking your body, you unlocked your feeling better about the world. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's really, so that it makes total sense that if that's how you unlocked the issues that were going on for you, that's how you would help other people unlock themselves. So coming from that, I'd love to hear a little bit more about, so you kind of mentioned things from your own perspective, how you'd see things in it if you're in a position of being with other yoga teachers, and you know, without telling everyone everything that's going to be in the workshop, just giving us an idea of kind of where you'll be coming from when you look at yoga therapy in the session.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd be coming from, again, my own experiences, but not with myself, but with the people that I've taught. So I've taught now, even though I've only taught specifically on its own for a year, I have been teaching since 2011. And in that time, I've taught many, many private clients, many groups and many people. And I've seen all different types of bodies and how that really affects the mind. I mean, I've had some clients who can barely even move and quite clearly have a real mental blockage and see the world very much in a glass half empty kind of way. And until they kind of begin to open up the hips and the shoulders and those things that are keeping them very tight, they don't seem to be able to fill up that glass and feel like everything is a little bit more easy. And I've noticed over the years and over these many people that I've taught that there are certain things that you see in the majority of clients. Obviously not everyone, everybody is different and everyone will come to you with a different thing. But I could almost guarantee that every single one of those people will tell you at some point they get back pain, at some point they get headaches, at some point they get knee pain, and at some point they get neck pain. And these all stem really from, to me, three essential parts of the body, which are your feet, your hips, and your ribs. Because those 3 points are kind of your center mass in a way. They keep you grounded, or they keep you out of grounding. Because if you're standing in a very anterior tilt pelvis or posterior tilt, you're shifting your weight in gravity, basically. And thereby you can't possibly really feel what's going on around you, or even what's going on inside your body. I mean, as an example, this is my very first class I ever taught. This was way back when. My dad came along, bless him, which was very sweet. And we were doing a standard cat-cow, simple. And I'm going around the room and I'm looking at all these people doing a standard cat-cow, and my dad's not moving. I said to him, "Dad, do you know what you're supposed to be doing?" And he went, "Yeah, I'm doing it." I said, "But you're not moving." He went, "I am." I mean, and then I just suddenly realized, oh my goodness, some people really don't feel their body at all. They have no idea what's moving when or what's moving how. And by understanding how the pelvis should move, how the ribs should move, and where the feet should be, I started to really be able to find a way to teach people to understand their body by using things like feedback and feeling their own body with their hands and doing partner work and anything that can get them to really come back to understand how their body is supposed to move, and even understand how it moves already. So that's kind of where I would be trying to go at with the workshop, and just to give people an idea of what they can look for in their classes with their clients, or even maybe not with their clients, maybe even just with friends, and family, or even themselves. And we would first of all look at themselves, because that's the best way to understand it. If they can understand what their own pelvis and shoulders and ribs and feet are doing, then they'll be able to understand it better in their students. So that's where we would begin, basically.
Lovely. So it's really lovely to know that somebody who's going to spend this time with us would get the opportunity to look at physical movement from a point of view of therapeutic for themselves, therapy for people around them that they might want to support through yoga. And then if they are in a therapeutic modality, they can look at it through giving people therapy who have chosen to come to them to add yoga to an aspect of therapy for them. That's really lovely.
Yeah.
And just following on from that, I wanted to ask you, if you had 1 hour for yourself, and you could do anything for yourself, and it doesn't even have to be yoga. It can be yoga, it can be movement, it can be anything, but you've got an hour for yourself. What would you give yourself with that hour?
It probably would be yoga, because Wednesdays tend to be a fairly free day for me, and I can never wait till that day, because it's when I actually get to do a full practice, a full hour or an hour and a half, whatever I end up doing. But what I love about it is I can take that time to just breathe, kind of come back to where I am and who I am, and I like to put a bit of music on. I mean, the funny thing is, when I teach, I often don't put music on, because I feel like it distracts people from what they should be feeling. But I think I guess maybe because I've been teaching for so long and practicing for so long, I can kind of do the two together. So sometimes I'll have just a nice little bit of music on in the background, and we'll just move in any way that I feel my body wants to or needs to. Sometimes I find I end up going really therapeutic with myself. So I'll notice a little thing in my body and I'm like, oh, I need to fix that. And then, work on that for an hour. But then other times I might just, I don't know, flow, have fun. Yeah, I love to move. So it's always the best thing. Yeah.
Oh, it's really lovely to hear that if you have an hour to yourself, you'd find yourself on the mat.
Yeah, I do.
excellent. And if you could just tell us also, where do you teach? How can we find you? Just tell me a little bit about, who Amy is, where we find Amy, and who you're teaching right now.
So you can find me all over, in a way, but online, if you type in a2zyoga.co.uk, that's my website, and that has all the links to everything else. But my main bases are in North Finchley, Enfield, kind of Enfield Chase, Oakwood side. I have a class in Hendon and Epping as well, which is random because I don't live that close to Epping, but it's because one of my best friends asked me to teach there, so I thought I would. So you can find me there too. And then at the moment I've got a series of other workshops going on, not specifically for teachers, more really for the kind of day-to-day modern body, and kind of the whole year is about sticking to your resolutions. I actually sent a newsletter out, or I think it should be going out today, to everyone on my mailing list about how to stick to your resolutions, and how it shouldn't just be January that you go, right, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get fit, or I'm going to lose weight, or whatever. So this whole kind of year I've based all of my workshops and a retreat that I've got coming up in June on sticking to what it is that you want, and kind of going through the motions with life and letting it help you rather than hinder you. So that most of those will be at Yoga Balance Studio in Finchley Central, not Finchley Central, North Finchley. And then the workshop is at a lovely place in Rickmansworth called Loudwater Farm, which is really lovely. And that's in June. And yeah, and then you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Again, if you go on my website, they're all there. Oh, and on YouTube.
Lovely. Oh, it's really good to know where we can find you. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us.
Thank you.
Now, when people ask, what will the yoga therapy afternoon be like, they'll be able to click on this, see you, and hear from you in person. So thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
Oh, you're welcome.